Good evening. If we are to accomplish what is before us tonight, we have a very large order. Not an order of feeling, not an order of sentiment, but an order of principle. You will have to cooperate and really understand everything that is said. Not nod politely, not drift with the pleasant words. You will have to watch thought. You will have to surrender the right to keep the old premises while seeking a new result. If you will do that, we can move together. If you will not, we will only talk about loneliness and add another layer of words to it. That will not do. Here is the paradox, and I will not soften it for you. You have read many times, "The kingdom of God is within you." You speak of presence. You sing of God with us. And yet, you report, "I feel alone." Now listen, feelings are not proof. Feelings are reports of the thought you have accepted as cause. A thermometer is not climate. It is an instrument registering a condition. So these feelings register what you have consented to in consciousness. They do not tell you the spiritual fact. The spiritual fact does not waver with yesterday's memory or tomorrow's forecast. God is. "I am with you always" is not seasonal language. Therefore, loneliness is not your condition. It is a veil, thin, temporary, made of a premise that never had God's seal upon it. We must name the culprit plainly, so it cannot hide in piety. There is a separation thought, quiet, reasonable sounding, sometimes dressed up as humility, sometimes as grown-up realism, sometimes as, "Well, that's just how my life is." It whispers, "God is true, yes, but I am here by myself. God is within, yes, but I am out here getting through the week. There is presence, certainly, but absence is also a fact for me." That is the entire veil. That is the one premise you cannot afford, and the one premise you have not yet recognized for what it is. I am not asking you tonight to manufacture comfort. I am not asking you to paste a sunny thought over a rainy hour. I am asking you to cooperate with truth. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not effort, not pleading, knowing. By the end of this work, if you stay with me, not sentimentally but scientifically, you will be able to identify in real time the very moment the separation thought presents itself. You will catch it saying, "I am here and God is there. I am me and presence is other." And you will not fight it. You will not argue with it. You will let it drop by returning not to a manufactured feeling, but to realized presence. We will do this not by might nor by power, but by stillness. Declare the truth, then listen. Not long, not strained. Long enough to hear that inner assurance that renders the argument powerless. So make this agreement with me now. For this hour, refuse to honor loneliness as a fact. Refuse to credit your thermometer as climate. Bring every report to the one truth. The kingdom of God is within you. Be still and know. If you will, the veil will thin, then lift, because you will have withdrawn the only thread that ever wove it. Consent to two-ness. And you will begin to taste companionship not as a visitor from outside, but as the quiet, faithful proof of what already is. All right, let us proceed. Now let us be exact, because if you are not exact here, you will go on losing ground while praying. Loneliness, metaphysically, is not a mood, and it is not a biography. It is the felt experience of two-ness. God over there, even when you say within, and me over here, as a private self needing contact, reassurance, proof. That is its whole substance. It says, presence is a truth in principle, yes, but my life is an exception until someone arrives, until something changes. And the instant you grant that, you have established two powers, presence and absence, love and lack, and you have divided the universe. The result is inevitable. Listen to your own speech, and you will hear how the disguise works. I know God is with me, but... There it is. The but is the confession of another power. God is my companion, but the house is empty. But my phone doesn't ring. But I need someone to understand me. Every but plants a second throne in consciousness and crowns absence as co-ruler. Do not joke about this. Do not take it lightly. This is a mathematical formula. You cannot get away from it. As long as consciousness is split, experience is split. As you sow, so shall you reap is not a threat. It is a description of law. If you hold two powers in secret, you will demonstrate division openly, as emotion, as relationship strain, as isolation, as the ache that says, I am separate life. Now, the two-ness hides in piety by using correct phrases with a wrong premise. God within, true. Me outside, false. There is no me outside of the life that is God. I and my Father are one is not poetry. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. If there is a me apart, that me will always be lonely, because it is an invented center with no source. But there is no such me. There is only the one I, expressing itself as the life you call mine. When that is understood, even a little, the craving for outer proof slackens, because you are no longer asking a shadow to verify the sun. You may say, but surely more activity, more people, more engagement will help. No, not as a remedy. Activities and people are wonderful as forms of expression. They are not powers. Nothing that you can see, hear, taste, touch, or smell is power. All power is invisible. Therefore, to try to cure loneliness by increasing visible forms while permitting the invisible premise of two powers to remain is to multiply effects without removing cause. You will be busy, entertained, surrounded, and aching. Only the correction of the premise ends the ache. So from this moment, watch for the but. Catch it, gently but firmly. Refuse it power. Whisper within yourself, one presence, one life, one I. Not in denial of appearances, but in fidelity to truth. Then be still. The argument of separation loses breath where there is no second throne to sit upon. Now, if you can stay with me just a little longer, we can place this entire subject on a foundation you cannot shake, even if you try. This is not sentiment. This is law. Demonstration cannot exceed consciousness. Never believe for a moment that you can bring forth any greater demonstration than your developed, unfolded, realized state of consciousness. This is a mathematical formula. You cannot get away from it. In the degree that you realize oneness, you will demonstrate companionship, warmth, belonging, peace, in that degree and no more. Not according to personality, not according to charm, not according to attractiveness, wit, education, or social reach. According to consciousness alone. You may object, but I have been very active. I have joined groups. I have volunteered. I have increased my messages, my dates, my community events. Yes, and very likely you had a temporary lift, followed by the old ache. Why? Because you attempted to increase effects while leaving the cause untouched. You tried to carry more water without repairing the vessel. The bottom drops out because you ask circumstance to outperform your premise, and it cannot. If you abide in the belief, I am here as a one apart who must be filled from without, the universe, obliging, lawful, mirrors that belief back to you. It can do nothing else. Let us make it simpler. If you abide in separation, you will interpret neutral moments as rejection. A quiet phone is an indictment. A full calendar that pauses for a day is proof of abandonment. A friend's tired face becomes evidence you are unwelcome. A cashier's distracted glance is taken as dismissal. In that state, even a room of kindly people cannot convince you otherwise, because you are not reading the room, you are reading your premise. If, however, you abide in presence, really abide, not recite, solitude is communion. The quiet room warms. The simple errand walks with you. A pause in conversation is not emptiness, it is breath. Companionship appears, yes, often in forms you did not schedule, but the difference is that you are no longer needing forms to certify what you already know. I and my Father are one, becomes the climate, and forms become weather, pleasant, changing, harmless. Understand this well. Your sense of aloneness is the exact size and shape of the separation you consent to in consciousness. Trim that consent, and loneliness trims itself to match. Withdraw that consent, and loneliness, having no life of its own, dissolves. This is not punishment or reward. It is description. As you sow, you reap. What you permit as a causal premise unfolds as lived experience. When the premise is oneness, the fruit is companionship. Not manufactured, not chased, but naturally present because it issues from the only source. Therefore, tonight is not about acquiring friends. It is not about adding more sound to drive out silence. It is about losing a belief. The belief that there exists a separate one to be filled, healed, loved from outside. Give that belief no throne. Give that belief no but. Seek first the kingdom, the realized presence, and all these things are added, not as a bribe from a far God, but as the effortless visibility of what has been true all along. Agree with this law now. Stop asking life to honor an overdraft on separation. Bring the premise to truth, and the demonstration, unfailingly, will equal it. Now let us look straight at the claimant. When you say, I am alone, who is the I? Be very literal for a moment. Is it the body? Is it the chest, the heart, the hand? Does the skin say, alone? Does the pulse? No, it doesn't. The chest knows air. The heart knows its beat. The hand knows warmth and texture. They do not announce solitude. Is it your name on a card? Some letters arranged on a line? Names do not suffer. They label. Is it your history? An album does not grieve, and a chronology does not ache. Then who is it that says, I am alone? Look around the room. Is the room lonely? The lamp does not know emptiness. The chair does not miss a guest. The phone does not mourn between rings. Circumstance is silent. It does not speak loneliness. It is your consciousness interpreting. So again, what is knowing this aloneness? What is reporting, I am the one who lacks? Trace it. Do not be casual. Where do you point? to a sensation in the solar plexus, to a heaviness behind the eyes. Those are sensations, yes, but they do not compose a self. Something is noticing them. Something is labeling alone. What is that? Here is the hinge. The one saying, "I am alone," is a thought, a mental image, a narrative me that gathers memories and forecasts and then claims authorship. It appears, it argues, it demands proof, but it is not the self. Aha! The knower of the feeling is not the feeling. The witness of the thought is not the thought. The awareness in which the sentence, "I am alone," floats is not lonely, because it is not separate from its source. I and my Father are one is the nature of that awareness. It needs no seconding. It requires no human certificate to be whole. Now let me name the subtle idol so it cannot keep its disguise. The hidden premise has been, I am a separate center of life, and God is a resource I must feel in order to be okay. That is the separation thought. That is the golden calf in metaphysical clothes. It fashions a private self and then hires God as comfort, hires people as proof, hires activity as anesthesia. And then, when the hired help is absent, it cries, "I am alone." Never believe for a moment that you can improve that claimant into freedom. You cannot. You cannot baptize it, educate it, polish it, or marry it into peace. It is a premise, not a person. What then? Once the claimant is seen, do not fight it, do not argue with it, do not administer remedies to it. Refuse it power by withdrawing belief in its separateness, and let it dissolve in realized presence. You turn, quietly, from the image that says, "me apart," to the I that is one. Not by might, not by a mental wrestling, but by recognition. The self that knows is the presence itself. In that recognition, the sentence, "I am alone," drops of its own nothingness, and what remains is the unargued fact. The kingdom of God is within you, felt, not proved, companioning itself as your very being. Be still there, and the false author has no pen. Let us be very clear how the veil keeps repairing itself after you have torn it once. It is not God reweaving it. It is not your true self stitching it back. It is time, used as hypnotist, and the world's suggestion, used as law, mesmerizing the mind into two-ness again. The mechanism is simple, and because it is simple, it is constant unless you guard. First, memory. The mind replays a scene. The empty chair at dinner. The letter that ended something. The tone of voice that cut. It strings these beads and calls it fate. Then it says, "See, aloneness is my nature." No, what you have is a motion picture of yesterday projected on today's screen. Memory is not presence, it is an echo. The echo is loud only if you consent to listen as if it were a live voice. Remember ye not the former things, not because they were not humanly painful, but because they are not spiritually causative. The pain is real as experience, I would not mock it. But it is not true as fact of God. It is belief with symptoms. When the belief loses authority, the symptoms lose voice. Second, comparison. You look left and right. Their table is full. Their photographs are crowded. Their weekend is busy. Immediately measuring begins. I am less. Life has passed me by. God is generous there and stingy here. There you have two powers in modern dress. In that moment, you have accepted another's outer picture as your inner law. What is that to thee? Follow thou me. Your life is not a yardstick against another's parade. Your life is the outflow of one presence individualized as you. Comparison is a thief, not of people or events, but of awareness. It shifts attention from I and my Father are one to I and my neighbor are rivals. And the ache follows lawfully. Third, anticipation. The mind runs ahead to a future where the worst is already true. They will forget me. The call will not come. The room will be empty on the holiday. Take no thought for the morrow. Not because tomorrow will magically fix itself, but because thought about a tomorrow apart from presence is the only author of that emptiness. You are watching a rehearsal and mistaking it for opening night. Stop attending the rehearsal. Over and beneath these three is what I call the world mesmerism. The collective persuasion, fed from nursery to newsfeed, that happiness is to be chosen, contacted, partnered, validated. That love is scarce. That belonging is earned. That presence is intermittent and must be invoked with the right words, the right look, the right performance. We were born into that mind, and everything in that mind influences us, unless we consciously refuse it. Hear the correction, and let it be final. You are under no obligation to accept the world's definitions of companionship. Never believe for a moment that a human certification can add one jot to the companionship of God that is your life. Give up the idea of love as ration and substitute the word grace. Grace is not intermittent. Grace is not conditional. Grace is not a paycheck for your behaving. Have compassion on your human heart, yes. Do not indulge its premises. Feel what you feel, but do not enthrone it. The pain registers the belief you are holding, not the absence of presence. Therefore, the work here is not dramatic and occasional. It is quiet and daily. Preferably early, certainly often, you bring to conscious remembrance that there are not two powers. You deny memory authority. You deny comparison the right to define you. You deny anticipation the power to forecast God. You rest in grace. In that guarding, the hypnotist has no entrance, and the veil that seemed to renew itself finds no thread to grasp. Now that you see how the veil renews itself, let us make the remedy so simple that you cannot miss it unless you insist on complexity. There is one treatment for every form of loneliness. Whether it is loneliness in marriage, loneliness in a crowd, loneliness after grief, loneliness in singleness, loneliness in illness, loneliness in youth or in age. It is all the same treatment because it is all the same belief. Separation. The pictures differ, the premise does not. And so the law does not change. This is a mathematical formula. You cannot get away from it. You do not heal loneliness. Please hear that and let it remain. You do not manipulate feeling. You do not take hold of gratitude like a wrench and tighten a bolt on the heart. You do not force affirmations until the mind is exhausted. I do not know how to heal loneliness, and I do not try. My only function is to attain consciously the realization of God's presence. Then, in that presence realized, the belief called loneliness dissolves of its own nothingness. Nothing is applied to it. No power is turned upon it. It cannot survive where it is not believed a power. In the presence of God, Error just does not have a chance to survive. It is only a belief. Understand the correction at its root. Presence is not something that starts when you pray well and stops when you are distracted. Presence is the ground. Lo, I am with you alway. What comes and goes is not God. What comes and goes is attention and belief. Attention clouds, grace remains sun. When the attention consents to two-ness, the light seems dim. When the attention rests in oneness, the light is seen as it is. Omnipresence includes no absence. Therefore, any report of absence is a report of consenting to look from a separated premise. Correct the premise, and the report changes. Give up, then, the idea of power struggle with emotion, and substitute the word grace. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You are not beating back a storm. You are ceasing to worship the wind. You are not conquering a feeling. You are declining to enthrone it. Sit softly within yourself and let the Christ be what the Christ is. Grace is not earned. Grace is not coaxed. Grace is recognized. And because you will ask, how do I recognize it? Here is the doorway, and in a moment we will practice it more exactly. First, declare truth to correct the premise. Not with strain, with clarity. One presence, one power, one life. I and my Father are one. There is no absence in omnipresence. I do not seek companionship from without. I realize it within as the very nature of being. Then, after you have declared this, you are ready for prayer. You sit in that complete silence, not manufacturing, not searching, listening. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. It may be a breath. It may be a soft assurance, all is well, God is on the field. That is the word. That is the treatment. The relief is not the goal. It is the byproduct. The goal is realization. And when realization dawns, loneliness, having never been a fact, has nothing to stand upon and is not found. Now we practice. Not later. Now. And you will have to cooperate with me here because this is not poetry and it is not a mood. It is a method. 2 steps only, always 2. Declare truth to correct the premise, then be still and listen for the word. This is a mathematical formula. You cannot get away from it. In the degree that you fulfill these 2, the argument of separation ends in that degree. Step 1. Declaration. You do not plead. You do not bargain. You state what is, in simple, clean sentences, not to persuade God, not to decorate your feelings, but to align consciousness with truth until the false premise is exposed and has no standing. Softly, without strain, you say within yourself, "The kingdom of God is within me. I and my Father are one. There is no separation in spirit. God alone is presence, therefore absence is not power. Lo, I am with thee alway. Thou couldst have no power over me except it were given thee from above. Therefore, no belief in absence has authority. I do not reach out for companionship from without. I recognize companionship as the nature of the one life within me, as me. Say it once, twice, perhaps 3 times, not hammering, not pressing, clear, exact, faithful. Understand what you are not doing. This is not autosuggestion. This is not a trick to feel better. You are not painting the window. You are opening the shutters. You are not trying to make truth true. You are consenting to let truth be truth in your awareness. When that is done, when you have made the premise right, stop the words. Put them down as you would put down a tool once it has done its work. Step 2. Silence. Prayer. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. You sit for a minute and a half, 2 minutes if you can, quiet, not searching for sensation, not waiting for fireworks, not peeking to see if you feel different. You are listening. If nothing seems to happen, stay with the listening. If something does happen, it will be of one kind: assurance. It may come as a deep breath. It may come as a release in the chest. It may come as tears without drama. It may come as a word so simple you could overlook it. All is well. I am with thee. Be still. It may come as the cessation of argument. No sentence, just the quiet end of insistence. That is the word. The earth melteth. Let it be enough. If, when, you find the mind trotting back to the story, do not condemn yourself. Do not call the practice a failure. Return. Declare again, briefly, clearly. Then listen again. 1 minute more. 1 1/4. 1 1/2 if you can. Repeat as often in that sitting as needed until the atmosphere changes, until the edge is off the thought, until you can feel that you have stopped seeking a second power to certify the one. Then rise and go about your hour. If the whisper of separation starts again later, you know the way. Declare, then listen. No argument, no might, no power. Grace. This is the whole of it. Correct the premise with truth. Then let silence reveal the felt assurance that ends the argument of separation. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Be still and know. And when you know, even for 1 minute, the veil has no cloth to weave itself from, and companionship is present as what it always was. Presence. Now where does this meet you? Not in the chair tonight only. It meets you at 10:30 when the message is left on read and the old ache rises. It meets you on the sidewalk when a group laughs and you are outside the circle. It meets you in the doorway when the key turns and the house answers with quiet. It meets you in the very middle of a conversation when a tone of voice brushes your fear and the sentence forms. I'm not really wanted here. That is the moment. Freedom is practiced then, not after. If you postpone, the world mesmerism will write the script for you, and you will play your old part without question. How do you practice in the instant? First, pause. Inside. No theatrics. No sigh for effect. Just the inward arrest of consent. Identify the exact sentence running underneath. Be literal. I am not included. I have no one. I was forgotten. Do not decorate it. Name it. Now make the sharp pivot. Those are not facts. Those are suggestions. They are the separation thought wearing tonight's costume. They have no power until you loan them yours. You do not debate them. They feed on argument. You recognize them and let them go by law. Here is your instant treatment. 1. Name it. This is separation thinking. 2. Deny it power. It has no law. In omnipresence, there is no absence. 3. Turn inward. Father within, reveal thyself. I and my Father are one. 4. Rest. 10 seconds of stillness. 1 breath. 2. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Then proceed. Answer the message or don't, but proceed from assurance, not hunger. Walk into the room or out of it, but walk with the presence, not with a petition for proof. Wash the dish, fold the blanket, continue the conversation. The atmosphere will tell you which motion is yours. You are not waiting for a voice from the ceiling. You are feeling for the release, the small inward yes, the end of the argument. You will ask, will 10 seconds do? Yes, because it is not time that heals. It is realization. 10 seconds of oneness realized is more than 10 hours of arguing with a ghost. This is a mathematical formula. You cannot get away from it. In the degree that you withdraw consent from two-ness, in that degree the ache has no air to breathe. Watch what happens to your relationships as this becomes habitual. When you are not begging the world to prove your worth, you stop transmitting need. People feel it. The pressure is gone. You are no longer bargaining for attention. You are present as presence's outflow. You listen, not for your turn, but for the life in the other. You speak, not to secure yourself, but to share what is given. And demonstration follows consciousness. Not sometimes, always. The quality of connection rises to the level of your realized oneness, and forms appear naturally. Calls reappear or not, but you are not diminished. Invitations come or do not, and yet you walk in companionship, because you are not asking form to certify the one. Keep it uncompromising. If you indulge the story, you will feel alone in a crowd, in a choir, in a family photo. If you abide in presence, you can be alone without loneliness, on a train, in a kitchen, under a quilt at 2 a.m, and know, lo, I am with you alway. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. Be still right where the sentence begins, and the sentence ends without your finishing it. Daily protection is not poetry. It is the fence that keeps the garden from being trampled by the world belief before noon. Preferably early in the morning, before the phone, before the scroll, before the house informs you who you are. You sit and you realize, this is God's day. Not mine to arrange, not the world's to define. God's. In that first minute, 1 minute, 1.25 if you can, you bring to conscious remembrance that there are not two powers and not two presences. There are not God and loneliness. There are not God and fear of being left out. There is only God. Say it softly until the words cease to be slogans and begin to be felt as climate. There is only God. Then add your protection in exactness, because the world will try to sell you a second presence before breakfast. You declare, no rumor, no news, no algorithm, no memory has authority to define my worth or my companionship. The kingdom of God is within me. I and my Father are one. God alone is presence, therefore absence is not power. You are not begging. You are placing your feet on ground that does not shift with a headline or a holiday. Now practice substitution. Give up the idea of power. Give up the power to be hurt, the power to be abandoned, the power to be unloved. Substitute the word grace. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Feel what that does in the chest. Power clenches. Grace releases. Power scans the room for proof. Grace is proof. Power bargains. Grace overflows. Sit 1 minute in that substitution until the edge of need loosens. You will relapse. Of course you will. We were born into that mind, and it whispers all day, through headlines that shout scarcity, through social images choreographed to announce others are loved, you are late, through holidays that rehearse an old ache. Do not be ashamed of the whisper. Be unmoved by it. Your protection is not withdrawal from life. You go to the dinner. You open the app. You answer the door. But you refuse suggestion as law. The algorithm may present a story. It cannot legislate your identity. A photograph may parade a crowd. It cannot revoke omnipresence. A memory may knock. It cannot pass your threshold without your consent. Deny them power and return. Declare, then listen. 10 seconds if that is what you have. Grace is instantaneous because it is not created. It is recognized. Do this daily and you will notice a quiet reversal. You do not seek people to fill a hole. You meet people as fullness. You are not entering rooms as a claimant. You are arriving as outflow. Companionship becomes natural, not compensatory. Forms come and go harmlessly, and you remain anchored. Lo, I am with you always, while the day unfolds from oneness. Be faithful in this discipline, and the stability you have asked for will not be an event. It will be your atmosphere, preparing you for that final instruction to which we are coming. Be still until the inner presence is more real than any outer story. Let us gather it into one clear line, so you cannot be moved from it. The pain you felt was not proof, it was a belief. The belief was separation. The remedy has never been relief by manipulation. The remedy is realization. On-the-spot realization, through listening prayer. That is the arc. That is the law. And it will hold you when feeling wobbles and pictures contradict. Hear again the refrain, not as comfort for later, but as fact now. The kingdom of God is within you. Not will be, within, now. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Not as promise for better days, but as the presence that is the only I that you are. Be still and know that I am God. Not a suggestion to empty the mind, a command to stop consenting to two-ness and to know what is already true. One presence, one power, one life, here as you. Now for 1 minute, we will not speak many words. First, lay down the urge to get rid of loneliness. You do not banish a shadow by wrestling it. You face the sun. Softly declare within, the kingdom of God is within me. I and my Father are one. In omnipresence there is no absence. God alone is presence. I am not a separated one seeking. I am the outflow of the one. Enough. Now listen. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Sit in the quiet for a minute and a half if you can. Do not reach, receive. If all that comes is a breath, let it be the word. If a small assurance forms, all is well. I am with thee. Be not afraid. Let it end the sentence that was building. If nothing verbal comes and only the argument ceases, that is the earth melting. That is prayer. Your charge is simple and exact. When the ache returns, do not analyze your history. Do not audit your relationships. Do not rearrange your day to bribe a feeling. Identify the separation thought in its current costume. Name it. Deny it power. Declare truth, once, twice, clear. and listen again. 10 seconds if that is what you have. 1 minute if it is given. Again and again until this becomes your normal climate. This is not toil. This is faithfulness to one law. Demonstration cannot exceed consciousness. So you choose, a dozen small times a day, to live from realized oneness rather than from the world's report. Go out from here with one instruction held like breath. Be still until the inner presence feels more real than the outer story. Hold there, 1 minute, 1 1/4, until grace, not might, writes your next step. Then walk it. And as you do, you will find that what you called companionship is already with you, as you. And wherever you go, you will hear it. Lo, I am with you always. Be still and know.